So now we are moving to the global perspective, and I would like to invite on the stage the person who has already been introduced, the Chief Executive Officer of Chalhoub Group, who came straight from Dubai. Please welcome Patrick. Patrick, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Katya. Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you. It's my first time accepting an invitation from INSEAD, so unlike you, Gilbert, for me it's a premiere, but it's a real pleasure to make this small address. My aim is to give you a little bit a glimpse about luxury into the Middle East. I could take hours to present it, but I have been said, respect fully your timing, so I will try to go fast and to give you just a little hint about it. I'll briefly introduce our group. I'll briefly introduce the Middle East globally, some outlook about it, and then mainly I will focus on the consumer of the Middle East and how the consumer is behaving and changing and transforming extremely quickly. So, our group, few things on our group. Our areas, I would say, our main focus is to be the leading partner of luxury into the Middle East. And when I say partner, it's partners with some of our suppliers, our venture, but it's also partners with our consumers and with our distribution. Highlights about our group, we try to maintain a deep knowledge of the Middle East in general. I say try to maintain because we have not enough data into the Middle East, so we have a lot of our teams who spend times in order to deepen this knowledge. Again, luxury expertise, like Christian said it, I don't know if I know much more than him than luxury, but we have all the time to drive about our knowledge. But then we have created a fantastic infrastructure in the Middle East, and we try to offer to our partners to plug and play in an easy manner. And the most important is our human resources, our 12,000 talented people who are there. So, as a group, we cover 14 countries of the Middle East. We have about 300 brands who are our partners, 11 e-commerce websites, over 750 retail stores, 12,000 employees, and again, so many other things which I will not tell. So what do? We are in distribution, we are in commercial representation, retail franchise, joint venture, and again, we have created our own concept and few of our own brands. What are our sectors of activity? It's all in luxury, it's beauty, it's fashion, it's again some lifestyle gifting, and some of our activity is in communication and in marketing. Our group today has about 30% of the beauty market of the Middle East and 36% of the high-end luxury of the Middle East. Beauty represents about 50% of our business, and fashion about 35% of our business. And I wouldn't speak much about our being a responsible business into the Middle East. It's not easy in the Middle East to be a responsible business, but I think that Gilbert covered it quite well. We have been quite responsible into promoting our businesses and in luxury into creating a sustainable world, really believing in the sustainable development goals of the UN and trying to walk the talk and making sure that everybody within the group and within our client and partners is quite engaged about it. So a small word about the Middle East. One, I will focus mainly on the GCC. Why the GCC? Because today, at least in luxury, it's the powerhouse of the Middle East. When we cover the Middle East as a region, we are covering about 300 million people. Well, the GCC is only 60 million out of the 300 million people all over, so about 18–20% of the population. But when it comes to GDP, the GCC covers about 60% of the GDP of the region. 60% is totally focused and concentrated into the GCC countries. And this is, when we speak about the GCC, it's a lot of GCC population, nationals, Saudis, Kuwaitis, Qataris, but also 200 nationalities who are living into the GCC. So about 40%, 50% are locals, and 50% are foreigners who are living into the Middle East. One of the elements which we find in the GCC and in general in the Middle East is this complexity. We have 6 countries, only a population of 60 million, but each one of them have their own rules. Each one of them have their own regulation. Each one of them has its own demography. Some countries, like the UAE, have 90% of their demography which are foreigners. Some countries, like Saudi Arabia, have 70% of their population which is local. Each one with them is at a different stage of their development, of their maturity, of the maturity of their consumers about it. One thing is common, we are in an area which unfortunately is highly unstable. We have, unfortunately, fires, not the Californian fires, but fires a little bit throughout the region, which are surrounding the GCC. And it's true when we speak about volatility of the markets and volatility of the customer, we have also the fact that we are living into a region which have, unfortunately, a lot of instability. But again, what we try to give is a little bit a glimpse of peacefulness within this instability. Our region has evolved extremely quickly. Again, most of those countries have had the independence about 40 years ago, 35 years ago, so they are mainly extremely new countries. For many years, those countries have lived thanks to the oil and gas wells, thanks to the oil and gas production, pricing, etc., which made that the economy has moved extremely fast. But I would say since now 3-4 years, we are attending at a very slower economical growth, which have appealed us to readapt extremely quickly. For many years, we have had a lot of subsidies which were given by the government in order to help and support their own population. But since 3 years, we have had a reduction into these subsidies. We had no taxation, but since few years, we had a lot of taxation who came into motion. For many years, we had a demand which was much stronger than the offer, but we are now in an era where we have a retail saturation and offers is much stronger than the demand. And again, for many years, our consumer was totally have frenetic spending powers, but now they are much more timid into their consumer powers, which means, again, a lot of agility and a lot of adaptability in order to cope with this new business environment. But at the same time, huge opportunities which are coming by this emergence of new social rules. Up till a few years ago, it was rare to have a woman working in Saudi Arabia. Today, I would say in our group, 60% of our workforce of about 3,500 people in Saudi Arabia are women, which means how much the environment is changing. Women who today are able to work, but able to express themselves, able to spend by themselves, which is a huge differentiation. Up till the beginning of this year, there was no entertainment in Saudi Arabia. Now there is over 300 cinemas which will be opening or have opened in Saudi Arabia. So a total shift again, cultural shift, which is happening in many of those countries by those new social dynamics, which is an extremely strong opportunity for us and for luxury into it. And again, there is a regional dynamism which is happening. This regional dynamism which we could see by having those exhibitions which will be happening, the Expo 2020 in Dubai, be it Qatar 2022 with the football games, be it this drive of tourism. Today, there is more Chinese visiting Dubai than Chinese visiting many countries in Europe, and more Russians visiting Dubai than Russians visiting France in general. When it comes to luxury, The global market of luxury in fashion, beauty, and gift, according to Bain, is about a $315 billion marketplace. Middle East is only about 8 billion, so about 2 to 3% of the global luxury market. With a different dynamic, because in the Middle East we sell much more watches, jewelry, perfume, and cosmetic in percentage than in the global world, but fashion and accessory are developing probably much faster into it. So if I focus a moment on the consumer of the Middle East, but mainly about how the consumer is evolving and evolving fastly into this part of the world. Today we are having a consumer which is much more knowledgeable, much more sure of himself, assertive than ever before. Why? Because he has been well-traveled, he is extremely informed thanks to his connections, extremely demanding, while before he was listening to anything which we could give him. He is today much more demanding than ever. He was used to go to certain of the brands and be very loyal. Today, he is on the contrary, very much experiencing a lot of things, much more fast adopter about new trends than ever before. And again, he has a strong culture of buying and shopping, which is part of the leisure which are happening throughout the Middle East. Today, we have in the Middle East consumer who is extremely connected with, I would say, a rate of connection like we have not seen in other countries in the world, be it into the smartphone, be it on Facebook, be it on Instagram, a huge rate of connection of our consumers into the Middle East. E-commerce is a new phenomenon in the Middle East. It probably started only in 2015, but it's really gaining traction. Today, 65% of our consumers are buying online, mostly online and offline. But if we had asked the question 4 years ago, it was 95% which were buying only offline. So an extreme speed, I would say, of momentum which is gaining the online shopping in general. Today, our consumers are having this hybrid navigation, moving from offline to online, getting their information offline, going back online, buying offline. So there is a total immersion of our consumers where digital became total part of their life, totally. We had a period of time where our customers were very much price conscious. Today, our customers has really become extremely price sensitive, and having, I would say, the right pricing became a real must into the Middle East. There was a time where our customers were buying at full price. Today, they are looking at promotion every time. There was a time where they only trusted what brands is giving it. As I said it before, today they are much more into the experience. Today, they are not anymore have the frenzy of shopping, so they are much more selective into their shopping. And the biggest change is before, a lot of them were shopping to show and portray their status, while today it's for their self-indulgence and to live an experience rather than just shopping for shopping. So, because our consumers have evolved and changed quite a lot, we have had to adapt as retailers. We have had to adapt to these consumers in order to be able to offer them this pricing which they were looking for, in order to be able to offer them this experience which they are looking for, in order to, and when I speak about experience, we have had to deliver many multiple ways of making the difference. Our retail stores are not anymore showrooms where a client will come and where he will be just wanting to find a product which is exhibited to him. He wants really to live it, to live the story which we have to tell them, to live a different kind of experiences, of events which we could create for him if we want to attract him. Today, for us, retail has totally changed. Some of us will say retail is dying. Retail is not dying. It's bad retail which is completely dying. Today, it has been the best period for retailers to prove themselves how they could connect with their customer, how they could engage their customer like ever before, and to speak about the customer languages. In brief, what we have tried to portray to our customer is making sure that we could offer them this exclusivity, that we could offer them this personalized service which they are looking for, that we could offer them this feeling of belonging and belonging to a community. What we are trying more and more to offer them is this omni-channel navigation, going between offline and online in a very seamless manner in order to be able to engage with them in any point of contact and to be able to shop at their fingertips anywhere and at any place. Today, what we are trying to do is immerse them in a story. I finished, so don't worry. Today, we are trying to indulge our customer like ever before. I really hope that one day you will be able to come and visit some of our stores into the Middle East and to discover this absolutely great experience. What we are trying to give them is to give them this feeling that they are totally at home. So, a huge initiative which have been taken by our group into the past 2-3 years in order to absolutely transform the group. In order to transform the group and going from being just a traditional retailer and wholesaler, I will skip some of the examples I have given, but really to move from being a traditional retailer and wholesaler who is bringing luxury to the Middle East, to be able, and we put ourselves 900 days, and this afternoon, for those who will be here, you will listen to Rania Masri, who will take you through a little bit the transformation journey which we are trying to move. We have already 350 days which have passed, or nearly, and really to become these hybrid retailers who can bring luxury experiences and not only luxury products at the fingertips of our customer anywhere and everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick.